GearNetwork.com.
This is a Gear Network production.
You're listening to the Sabrecast, brought to you by Better Live Than Dead. And now your hosts, Brayton Wilson and Ryan Wolfe.
And with that, we welcome you to the Sabrecast. I need like some swords, like shing, 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 shing. The Sabrecast, episode 4 of the Sabrecast. This is actually supposed to be episode 5, but episode 4 got canned because it was terrible. We had a lot of fun doing it, but it just ended up being a nightmare. So, that being said, I am Ryan Wolfe at Wolfe BLTD, joined on the hotline, on the phone line, on the internet by Brayton Wilson at BJ Wilson WGR. Brayton, how are you and your fantastic name doing today?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm still trying to figure out what suitable name would be better for people in this world here.
You know, the amount of abuse you take on Twitter, you would figure that you would just pay attention to only the people who you follow or whom follow you, type of deal. Yeah, that little list. I don't remember how to get to it, but it might not be a bad idea for you because you getting tweeted at by people who only respond to tweets and never actually tweet. It's incredible. It's very incredible.
Right, but like it was kind of intriguing at first because I'm just like, this is a very random thought. Like, I want an explanation, and then when he had his reasoning, I was like, okay, this is absolutely, completely ridiculous.
You're just like, okay, go on, and then you hear it, and you're like, that's right, you're a moron.
Yeah,
I got you. I understand that.
I just can't believe people waste their time like this on social media. But I guess that's the beautiful world that's known as Twitter. Although
it was great when the guy did tell you that he said, hey, don't pick a fight with me. I've got all the time in the world. My job sucks. It's like, okay, well, maybe you're just a loser. That's probably the case. Yeah. Maybe he's listening to the podcast now. Hey, loser guy. But I want to point out real fast, Sabrecast, powered by Better Live Than Dead and the Gear Radio Network. You can hear us, betterlivethandead.com, iTunes, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube. Wherever you get a podcast, you can get this podcast. Now, Brayton, with that being said, we've been pushing this off for a little while. We do apologize for our absence, but oh boy, the Buffalo Sabres, 10 straight wins for the second time in franchise history. Now they will be going for a franchise record 11th straight win on Thursday night. That is tonight, time of the podcast, against Tampa Bay Lightning.
Did you say second time in franchise or third? Because it's third.
Second.
Sorry.
They only have the other one is when they were really, really, really good, and now this time we're not really sure what to expect from them, so we're just taking it in stride.
Sorry, I don't mean to correct. They had another one in like the 83-84 season.
Really?
Yes. Let me just confirm that. I'm sorry, I don't want to.
I feel like they've only ever said that.
I don't want to rain on your parade.
No, I want to make sure we have the right information here because I'm pretty sure that they've been saying on MSG for a while now that it's just they tied the franchise record 10-game winning streak that was set in 2006.
Yeah, they won 10 games in a row in 83-84.
Well, F me running. Those freaking liars on the television, man. And I'm not on Twitter enough anymore to see the stats. So, hey, the third time in franchise history. Who cares? The Sabres are doing really, really damn good. Let's just put it that way.
Yes, sir.
10 straight wins. How did that even happen? I mean, they've played a lot of good games, a lot of tight games, really, a couple nights ago when they played San Jose, that was really the first time this streak where I thought, this is probably it when they blew that lead. But it's a different type of feeling now. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a really, really different feeling compared to what we felt last year and the several years beforehand. I mean, I haven't been more impressed with a streak since when the Sabres lost, 13 straight games in regulation and pretty much lost out the month of January back in the tank year for Eichel. But this has been very, very impressive in the complete opposite spectrum where this team is finding ways to win games, whether it's holding on to a lead, which they haven't done much of in this streak, but they have done it. Whether it's them coming back from down 2 goals, 3 goals, a goal, to tie the game and send it to overtime and then win in the shootout or overtime. It's impressive that they've been able to win. It hasn't been pretty because they've had, I think it's 9 of 10 games have been 1-goal games, and they've gone to overtime maybe half those times, or shootout half those times. It has been pretty, but it's still impressive enough to the point where, okay, this team, where they were last year, the worst team in the NHL, they win the draft lottery, they get better this offseason, they make a bunch of moves, and it's like, okay, this team was a team that we thought, yeah, they could contend for a playoff spot. Are they probably going to be a playoff team? No, not really. They'll contend, but maybe into March, but probably once at that point, they'll fall back a little bit, and they'll probably miss the playoffs. Well, through 25 games, they're the best team in the NHL. Yesterday they were all by themselves at number one, but now they're tied at number one with Toronto, yada, 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 et cetera, et cetera. But they're still the number one team in the NHL. They still boast the best record in terms of points in the NHL standings, which is history. No team has gone from 31st the year before to being in first place all alone after 25 games in the season. It's pretty remarkable what this team has been able to accomplish. And, the schedule doesn't get any easier for them. It's going to be a tough road coming up for the Sabres, but as long as they can continue to stay in games and be competitive and find ways to grind out wins, or even if you can get it to overtime and continue to pick up points, that's really all that matters.
Yeah, that's the one stat that I was going to throw out, Brayton. Thank you for stealing my statistical.
Sorry.
You're okay. You're just showing off. It's all right. You got to make up for stuff. I understand. You got to make me look.
I've been cooped up in my house for the past, near 36 hours. Just
how many inches of snow did you get?
It's where I live, it blows a lot. So, there was a drift that was 6'2", and the drift was like pretty much past my belly button. So, if I had to guesstimate, because there's like maybe one spot in our entire area that, and when it snows, it doesn't blow around just because it's guarded by some trees, and I haven't measured yet. But if I had to guess, we probably got close to 20 inches. Maybe more.
Yikes, man. Yikes. Holy crap.
Well, it's Western New York. We should be used to this. And plus,
it is. Yeah, it is. With that stat you pointed out, it's the one thing I wanted to add on to was that 5 teams have been tied for first, but Buffalo is the first team to do that outright, where they went from worst to first in 25 games in an outright point lead. You mentioned that Buffalo is tied for first with Toronto in the Eastern Conference. Excuse me. But this is one thing that I've been chewing on a little, and I did mention this last night. I was on the Rick's Reviews podcast, which is a good Buffalo podcast if you want to check it out, with Brendan and Taylor. It was a lot of fun. I mentioned this last night because I've been hearing it a lot on WGR and through Twitter that it's clear the Sabres are on a playoff pace, because if you look at it now, 36 points in 25 games. If the Sabres were to go 500 essentially, and then in the next 57 games, getting a point per game, 57 points in 57 games, they would end up with 93 points. Now we know that that even the worst teams are better than a point per game for the most part. So Buffalo's run to the playoffs should be good. I know that Blake McCurdy on Twitter was pointing out, I think is at Ineffective Math was pointing out yesterday that the playoffs were around 97 points or not 97 points. The Atlantic, I think, was 89, and the Sabres were projected 97. So they're right in the thick of things, and it's not going away. And with the hot start, it's really going to help them out when they hit those lows mid-season, whenever that may happen, if it does happen.
Yeah, I can't say enough about how truly amazing this turnaround has been for the Sabres going forward. Just one of those things where, again, I thought this team personally was going to be a team that was going to be, probably right around where the Carolina Hurricanes are right now, a wild card team fighting for that last spot. But, mind you, out of this run, if they didn't have this 10-game win streak, they probably would be there. They'd probably be somewhere right around there fighting for that second wild card spot. But, this team is beaming with confidence, more confidence than I've ever seen this team play with, maybe since the lockout, or maybe since before the most recent lockout, the 2011-12 season. I know that team didn't make the playoffs, but at one point they were winning at the end of the year to the point where they were playing with so much confidence that, hey, maybe the playoffs aren't completely out of the picture for us yet, or, what have you. But, through 25 games this year, and with the pace that they're at, this team is set to maybe eclipse the 100-point mark and be a top 3 team in the Atlantic Division, which would be unthinkable when you really look at it at the start of the season with how good this team has been. And they're really firing on all cylinders. The defense has been jumping up into the offense and making some really nice plays offensively. They're playing some solid defensive play. The goaltending between Carter Hutton and Linus Ullmark has been outstanding. And also the offense is finding ways to put the puck in the net and play some, at clutch times. And that's just not only with the guys like Jeff Skinner, Jack Eichel, Sam Reinhart, Connor Sherry, Casey Middleton. It's the depth guys too. I mean, that fourth line with Johan Larsson, Zemgus Girgensson, and, you've rotated guys out like Remy Ellie, Patrick Berglund, Evan Rodriguez. That fourth line, especially with Girgensson and Larsson, has been finding ways to not only play solid in the defensive zone, but also sustain offensive zone time and be one of the better lines or pairings or what have you in the offensive zone. They don't get a lot of offensive. I mean, they don't generate a lot of offense, but they're getting offensive chances and they're sustaining zone time. It's that type of play that you need from all 4 of your lines in order to be successful. And the Sabres have been getting that consistently night in and night out.
I'm very pleased with how, like you said, they've been able to cycle people in and out and have little to no problem with it. I mean, we saw that Connor Sherry was out of the last game against San Jose. Tage Thompson stepped up and was okay. I mean, it didn't look terrible. It seemed to work out. The Sabres won at the end of the game. At the end of the day, end of the game, if you win, it's all that matters. It doesn't matter how good or bad people play. You get that W and you move forward. But being able to really have guys, the one thing that stuck out for me this season so far is players talking about how there's no one's dragging their feet. Everyone knows their role and plays their role and is perfectly fine with their role. Some guys want to go out and score more goals. Some guys want to play with Jack Eichel, but they can't. And they just accept their role and say, look, I'll be a third line winger. Kyle Oposo comes to mind where, he's done everything the Sabres have asked of him and not complained at all. Had a decent season so far, a really big bounce back year, which a lot of the reason why I think the Sabres bottom 6 has been as good as it has been with a guy like Kyle Oposo who goes out and does everything you need him to do. He can jump up and take a spot in the top 6 if he needs to, but he'll be playing, 14, 15 minutes a game and be perfectly fine with it and be really good at it too. So that's been a big thing for me this season. Not to mention too, the defense being really comfortable jumping up into plays. We saw it with Nathan Beaulieu's goal. We've seen it with Rasmus Dahlin a few times. Rasmus Ristolainen, same thing. You just see the players seem to know now where each other is, or where they happen to be on the ice at all times, which makes what they do so much easier, so much more effective. And like I said, seeing the defense jump up, get involved in plays and actually scoring goals, I think that's also a huge, huge, huge difference for the team this year.
Yeah, and I think a big thing to attribute to that is the team is playing with confidence. Confidence goes a long way when it comes to finding some chemistry and being able to click with your teammates. And since the Sabres have finally developed some chemistry and have been able to find that little niche with one another, it makes the team that much better. It makes the team that much more cohesive. And when you've got all of your players on the same page, when you've got everyone really clicking at that pace, it just makes things that much better for your team. It makes things that much simpler for your game. And when you go out there, you see the guys, no matter who they're playing with. I mean, it could be Sam Reinhart on the top line with Jack Eichel and Jeff Skinner. It could be Jason Pominville. It could be, Tage Thompson maybe one of these days gets up there or whatnot. It really doesn't matter. These guys have gone through the preseason together. They've gone through training camps together. They built the confidence there. As the season went on, it was a little bit of a rough patch to start, but now they've got this 10-game winning streak. They know they can go out there and they know they can produce and keep things close in games and actually win games. And the last time that a Sabres team has been able to have confidence like that, I mean, it seems like eons ago that it's been able to be like that. So, I think confidence has been a huge benefactor for the Sabres. And, even if their streak comes to an end, let's say tonight, tomorrow, or whenever it decides to come to an end, this team isn't going to sulk in it. They're not going to be disappointed with their effort, or, they're maybe they'll be disappointed with the game, but it's not like they're going to let that sit there. It's not like they're going to let it linger like they have in past years where, oh man, well, we lost this game and we've lost the last 5 games, or, we've lost 10 out of 15. We've really got to figure out what we're doing here. We got to have more confidence. This team doesn't have that problem anymore. They're going out, they're winning games comfortably, and they're doing the right things night in, night out. If they continue to do this, even if they lose a game here or there, and they continue to just say, well, let's go on to the next game. This game is kind of a wash, whatever. Let's focus on the next opponent. If they do that, they're going to be a playoff team this year, and then they're going to be playoff teams for years to come, especially with the talent that they have and the talent they have coming. This is just the beginning for the Sabres, in my opinion, at least.
And the one thing to point out too, Jeff Skinner continues to play red hot, lights out. I don't understand what level this guy is on, because I don't think we've ever seen this in a Sabres uniform before. 19 goals in 25 games. He's tied for first with David Pastrnak of the Bruins and Patrick Laine of the Winnipeg Jets. Skinner is tied for first in even strength goals with Nathan MacKinnon, who has 14. Skinner is also 7th in the NHL with 12.1 goals created. Nathan MacKinnon is first there with 15.8. Jeff Skinner is on pace for a career high 62 goals, shooting 23.5%. Now his career average is 11.2%, a little higher than that, but it's November 29th and Jeff Skinner has 19 goals. So it's like the Sabres with their playoff points. They collect them. You collect those goals early on, and you'll be able to stumble across 11 goals, and get to 30 goals. You should be able to roll off 20 more goals in the next 57 games. I mean, even that 20 goals in 57 games is a really good pace. You could hit 40 goals easily. I mean, if Jeff Skinner, whether or not Jeff Skinner resigns in Buffalo remains to be seen, which is something we'll talk about in the future here. I would presume as the new year rolls around, but with how Jeff Skinner's playing, I mean, his agent deserves a big old pat in the back, and Jeff Skinner himself for wanting to come to Buffalo to know that he'll play with Jack Eichel. And it's really, if this was just for strictly a money grab, brilliant. If this was trying to find a spot for the rest of his career, also brilliant. We won't know until he either re-signs in Buffalo or goes elsewhere. But Buffalo is getting everything they wanted from Jeff Skinner, and I think Jeff Skinner is getting everything he wanted from Buffalo, and it's working out. It's been a great relationship so far through the first 25 games, and I most certainly look to see where Jeff Skinner is at the end of December into January, February. How many goals can this guy actually get this season playing aside Jack Eichel?
And, I mean, Jeff Skinner has really been the guy that has been kind of spark plugging this team. He's one of the guys. He's not the only guy. It's just he's one of the catalyst guys at this point that is going out there night in, night out. He's being a spark plug for this team. He's doing things that, we don't see enough out of hockey players. I mean, obviously, we kind of know his backstory, where when he was younger, he was figure skating and he took lessons that way, and he really didn't. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I don't know this for sure, so if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me on any of this for anybody that's listening. I don't think Jeff Skinner really was really touched the puck at all, or any type of hockey equipment, until later on, after he had really kind of mastered the art of skating. And it really shows, because I think it was Ben Mathewson who kind of captioned when he cut to the right on the game-winning goal in overtime, where if you look at his feet, it's just like one of those things where how can his feet be positioned like that almost when then he cuts to the right? It's just one of those things where he has really done a masterful job of creating the type of player that he is, and watching him skate and watching him handle the puck for the size of player that he is, but he's just so fast and he's so crafty. It's amazing watching him go out there night in, night out and play at the caliber that he has been playing at. And that's what just makes him such a unique player. And for the Sabres to be able to have him this year and for the price that they had to give up to get Skinner, it's amazing at that point. And then not only that, but to have the thought and maybe the idea of getting him re-signed to a contract. Mind you, it's probably going to be a pretty hefty contract that they're going to re-sign him at. But just to have him potentially here for the long term, really get you more that excited just because of what he brings night in and night out for your club.
And it's been great to see how he's not only made the top line better, but really the rest of the team better, because his ability and his scoring ability and his playmaking ability has made the team so much better as a whole. I mean, that's really the long and the short of it. It's crazy to think that, coming in, we knew Jeff Skinner was going to score goals at even strength. We knew Jeff Skinner was going to score goals, but being able to see him be in the right place at the right time every time you need a big goal for the first 25 games has been really unreal. It's been a blast to watch, and he's been a ton of fun to watch. I'm really hoping that I know with the way that the CBA works out, the Sabres have to wait until after the trade deadline to offer him an 8th year. I really think that once the day after the deadline, you're calling the agent. I mean, I'm sure you're already having conversations now, but it'll be something where at the end of the day, you say, look, here's, you guys want X, we're going to give you Y. Let's make a deal. Let's not wait. And with how Jason Botterill has worked throughout his time in Buffalo so far, I don't suspect why it wouldn't happen for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really, I'm sure that if contract negotiations haven't started, like they probably haven't. I mean, I know that they've said that, hey, let's talk after Christmas or whatnot, but if they haven't started talking, I'm sure Jason Botterill already has the mindset where it's like the second it hits, let's say December 26th or January 1st, he's giving the call to his agency and saying, all right, we need to talk contract extension. Maybe we don't have to get a deal done right now, but let's at least start that process. Let's at least start talking, and let's get this, let's get this underway, because he is, as of right now, a huge part to our team's success. He's scoring alongside Jack Eichel. He said many good things about the city of Buffalo and the team itself. And, if he truly wants to be here, let's make this happen. Let's finalize something. Let's get it done before it's too late. And, if they could get him signed to a reasonable deal, that would be fantastic. However, my concern is that with him continuing to score at the pace that he's at, is it going to be possible to get him signed for a team-friendly deal? Which that means, is it going to be less? I mean, I kind of see it as, are you going to be able to get him signed for less than what Jack Eichel makes? Because Jack Eichel is your franchise player. He's the one that's going to be leading this team down the road. And I get it. The cap always fluctuates and contracts always get, bumped up a little bit. But at this rate right now, I kind of want to see this as, can the Sabres get Skinner signed for less than what Jack Eichel is making right now at $10 million per year? I think that is where I'm concerned with. If it's a $9.5 million AAV for Jeff Skinner, I'm kind of hesitating a little bit, but then at the same point, I'm thinking, okay, if he continues to score that he's at, then sure, I'll pay him $9.5 million. If it's anything less than that, I'd probably say get it done. But, if at the pace that he's scoring at, he's on pace for, I think, like 62 goals this season. Yeah. That's just off the top of my head. But it's one of those things where if he scores that much, he might want to ask for more than $10.5 million. He might be asking for $11 million, $11.5 million. But rightfully so. He's putting out the production, and he's showing teams, hey, look, if you need some scoring help on your wing and you've got, a top line center or whatnot, I'm a free agent and I'm open for anything. But I think the Sabres have that beneficiary where he's close to his home in I believe he's from Markham, Ontario, where he's close to home. He's close to the greater Toronto area, and he's also on a young team that is up and coming. They have the right pieces in place to win for not only this season, but in the long term. They've got more pieces that are in the pipeline that could be ready to go within a few years. And, he's got a great environment, a great locker room that he's being a part of right now. And you couldn't say that last year. I mean, if the Sabres had thought to acquire Jeff Skinner last year, I mean, yeah, maybe the goal scoring production continues, but with the makeup of the rest of the team, do they win and be in the same position they are? I don't think so. I think last year's team was quite bad. And, I still think that even if Jeff Skinner was here last year, this team wouldn't be anywhere close to where they are right now. And this team right now, they're firing on all cylinders. They have young guys contributing. They have veterans contributing. They've got a good top 4 lines. They've got a good top 6 defensive group. They have a good, tandem in net. It's all clicking for them. Could it be better? For sure. Absolutely. But Jeff Skinner, with what he has right here in Buffalo right now and what he's got potentially coming in the future under the management that we have, under the coaching staff that we have, I think it all benefits the Sabres with, the possibility of him wanting to stay and wanting to be a member of the Sabres in the long term.
I absolutely agree with all that. I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. And one thing I want to mention before we wrap up the podcast here, I know this podcast will probably go up tonight after the game or right before the game, but so the lines or whatever. But the one thing I do want to point out, Matt Hunwick is in Tampa skating with the team today. They say that they expect him to be back around Christmas. Not really sure where he fits in aside from being an extra, but even when Scandella is healthy, which we know Scandella is Scandel's not healthy, 100% healthy right now, or maybe he is healthy, but he's a healthy scratch. I'm not sure. There's conflicting reports on that one, but I don't really know where Hunwick fits, but we'll see. I mean, that's the Sabres are in first place, and there's a good problem to have is when you have some veteran talent rolling back in the lineup. Whether or not he's good, that remains to be seen. Is a member of the Buffalo Sabres, but it's something to keep an eye on. And I also do want to mention too. I want to do a podcast soon here, Brayton. We want to talk about the excellence of Rasmus Dahlin. He's been fantastic. Little teaser. He's been really, really, really damn good, I must say. Yeah,
Rasmus Dahlin. I know that guys around the NHL want to say that, it's Elias Pettersson's Calder Trophy to lose at this point. But I mean, I don't understand how you could just say at this point right now that, the Calder Trophy is all set. Because, I mean, there are a lot of rookies this year that are now just starting to get their feet under them to the point where this race could be way more closer than everybody thought maybe in the first 20 games of the season where it was Elias Pettersson. I think Dahlin has certainly reinserted himself into that mix, especially now with the way that the team has performed and how his minutes have gone up and how he's getting more ice time and getting the trust of Phil Housley to be out there more on a consistent basis. But for Dahlin, with the way that he has played and the way that Phil Housley's inserted him, and he just seems that, he's going to make rookie mistakes. Every rookie does that. With the type of player he is, you have to let him make those mistakes and let him grow. But he goes out there and it looks like he just makes everyone else better on the ice, especially with his passing and his playmaking abilities. He just seems to be a guy that can be a calming sense on that ice where, once he has the puck, he sees the ice incredibly well. He just has the confidence with the puck to do things. I mean, that overtime goal that he scored against San Jose, who would have thought that when you have the puck on your stick like that, and with the instincts that he has, most of the people would have thought, okay, I'm going to try and circle around and try and find an outlet or try and find a lane. Instead, he's confident enough where he decides to put a light backhand pass behind Karlsson, behind himself, spin around and try and get to the net where the puck is. And then Jones comes out, has to try and commit to poke checking the puck away, which he does. But then that opens up Skinner to go in all alone on him for the backhand winner. It's just that type of confidence that I think is kind of contagious. It kind of spreads to everyone else on the ice where those guys may be seeing Dahlin do something like that. And maybe, they can't say, well, I can do something similar, but it just allows them to be like, okay, he's out there doing his thing. That's going to allow me to go out there and play my game, to get open and find areas where I can set myself up for plays to get the puck to myself. And a guy like Rasmus Dahlin can go out there and find those guys after he makes this exceptional play or whatnot. It's that type of confidence that I think a lot of people, when they were playing with Jack Eichel, wanted to have, but I think too many people were in awe of what he could do. So, Rasmus Dahlin, though, outside of the points and outside of his exceptional play, I think that his type of play can certainly be contagious with the rest of the team, and it's showing. And it's just another addition to the Sabres, a young addition, a good addition where, these guys are skilled, they're young, they're beaming with confidence. And, if this continues, it can continue to spread to other players on the team and it can make them better. And eventually, if that continues, the Sabres might be better off for it, and they might continue their winning ways. And when it comes to the playoffs, anything could happen.
I'm just looking forward to the next game and the next game, the next game. Bring that win streak to 11. Hey, if the win streak doesn't go to 11, start a new one right there.
Absolutely.
We'll talk more about Dahlin, about the Sabres, about guys like Casey Middlestat. I mean, there's so much we could talk about. We're just running out of time. So we'll get back to you guys soon. We appreciate you tuning in. Episode number 4 of the Sabrecast. I'm Ryan Wolfe at WolfeBLTD. Brayton joined me on the phone hotline. I don't know if we had a sponsor for that or not. We'll figure it out. At BJ Wilson WGR on Twitter. He will not be changing his name, so you're going to have to get over it. But Brayton, I appreciate you joining the podcast today, and I will see you in a few days here. Yeah, sounds good. I'm looking forward to it as I will be heading out to Rochester here tomorrow to work more Amerks games. Hey, that's another thing we got to talk about in a later podcast is the success of the Amerks, because not only have the Sabres been playing well, but the Amerks have been pretty darn good too. They've been developing kids real well too, which we'll talk about here soon. So hey, we got a lot to talk about. We just got to find time to talk about it. So we'll get on that. We appreciate you tuning in. As always, thanks for listening, and go Sabres.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.